And was your presentation to secretary or to finance, or did you just forward it?
I sent it to Jack. I remember she was flipping up.
It's okay, it's backwards.
This is the second version.
Let's see. This is
What's
there?
that track?
This is not the second version. Would you like to present the second version?
Yeah, with the extra slides I put in, yes, please.
I will send that right over. Okay, I just forwarded that over, Jake.
So click right here. Or...
It'll be up there.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to apologize in advance. I've been, which I'm sure some of you too, I've been just having a terrible cold for the last 2.5 weeks. Back in a test, or like 3 days, I didn't even have a voice, which I'm sure a lot of people in the athletic department were happy with. But so I'm just kind of getting it over. If I start coughing, I'm going to grab a water. I thank you for allowing me to make this presentation. Thanks for everything that you do for the institution. And you can see here in the first section, we cover the salary for the coordinator, the director. We have an assistant, which Seth used this year as a grad assistant. And then we had around 20 workers, and we allocated about $2,500 a worker for a total of $50,000 for a salary and benefits of $98,000. We have some contractual services, part-time instructors, also custodial services for a total of $48,000. And then we have, Seth has right here in there some professional development, the 2019 NIRSA conference. It's a 4-day conference, a 4-day visit. And maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what you do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The NIRSA conference, for anybody in the campus recreation field, it's National Intramural and Recreation Sports Association. It's everything from all the changes that you've seen within the intramural department and the group exercise. It's just about mixing together with other professionals, getting new ideas about sports, organization. That you saw the new IM leagues for special events and our intramural sports, just for better organization, group exercise schedule layouts, just a lot of networking and professional development. So that's obviously very good.
Any questions so far? The next slide goes over operational costs, from the phone line, the printing, down to the electrical, lights. We also cover in here some, he has kind of what I will call a capital ask for some new equipment. Sorry. Equipment to use to continue to maximize the diversity of what we offer up there. And Seth, could maybe you elaborate a little bit on the capital, what I'll call the capital stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Starting kind of at the top, the Rogue 3-tier mass storage system. That's just your standard storage for kettlebells, medicine balls, things of that nature. When you go up into that in the group exercise room, when you go in there to casually work out, we can obviously store some things up there. Rogue Echo bars, for those of you that have been up in the weight room, those are about 3 years old. The bars on the weight racks, they definitely need to be replaced. Concept 2 rowers, those are our 2 rowers that we currently have up there. Been a lot of heavy use, great piece of equipment. It's the standard for any kind of rower. The next couple 3 items, Rogue rubber hex dumbbell sets, 5 to 50 pound and 55 to 100 pounds, along with our Kiefer USA flooring quote. That's with the idea of adding another dumbbell free weight area up in the Wellness Center. And for those of you that have been up there around 3 o'clock to 6 p.m. and want to go and work out in that free weight and use dumbbells, that is a very clogged up area. So looking to rearrange the area up there. We can move a lot of the cardio equipment around and create an exact same space as the free weight area that is there, the dumbbell in the corner. If you can picture it in your head, we want to put that in the back, scoop forward all the treadmills and add that new area back there. Let's see, as far as the next piece of equipment, the Hear No Evil volume, that's for the bouldering room. That's just another big piece to add some more diversity to the wall. And lastly, spinner ride bikes. Those are top of the line pieces of equipment. I wouldn't say top of the line, but they're commonly used in a lot of commercial gyms. Looking to get about 6 of them because we've had a lot of interest in adding a spin class to our group exercise schedule. We do have some instructors actually that are on staff, and with our partnerships that we've made with Nucleo Fitness, they can offer instructors as well to add some more diversity to those classes that we can offer up there. So that'll be that.
So the total request is $192.89. Not to, it's my understanding that salary and benefits are an automatic. The facility is automatic, meaning custodial is an automatic. You approve that no matter whether you don't or you do. That just automatically fits in. So what you're really looking at is approving the operations, the possible capital improvements, and the professional development. Any questions, comments?
I was curious on the last slide, the numbers don't add up to like in the first section, unless I just can't see. It's not like $98,000.
It is.
Salaries total. It's like
It should be higher than that, yes, you're right. Excel mistake.
Okay.
That's a really dry bad joke.
All right. I was just wondering if there was like some way that you're taking out, but it's just like an adding mistake then.
Yeah, it's an
okay.
added mistake.
All right.
Right.
I was a history and political science major.
Those are recreation areas.
It's all right. We forgive you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you previously attended these development conferences?
Yes. This past year, that's where you've seen a lot of changes. Sorry.
But it's fine.
That's where you've seen a lot of the changes that have occurred within the past year and a half up in intramurals, just bouncing around ideas with other institutions. It's Black Hills State sends 4 to 5 with their obviously they have some recreation degrees up there. Chadron State, they have 4 professionals from Chadron State go. It's just a great networking opportunity with other universities.
How many current part-time instructors do you have at the?
Total, let's see. So, Nucleo has a number. We have a total number of classes. We usually go by our classes. So we have 16 total classes going on right now per semester.
And so, when developing their salaries, are we going to start going by classes, or is it more valuable to go by instructor? And we only
More valuable to go by instructor because it sometimes
flat fee, or?
it goes, but depending on the different, if we go out into the community and offer, try to get instructor to come. Say we have Nucleo. Depending on the class, it could be $50 per class for an instructor to come in. If we have, sometimes we have the student workers or part-time student yoga instructors. They'll go for the yoga. They'll go $20 a class. I mean, so it kind of fluctuates between what class is being offered, and especially if we look to add spinning classes, that's going to obviously add more classes.
If we would go to your next slide, I had a couple questions. So on your last one, you said you had 20 student workers, but you want to do 40 shirts. Are you trying to give each worker 2 shirts for their job?
Yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily too. It just depends on the type of quality of the pole that we get. Trying to give them diversity because you know just as well as I do, laundry with a college student, it doesn't necessarily make it through the wash all the time. So we try to supply the students, try to supply the staff to be able to differentiate between students and staff.
Okay, and then for CPR, how many already have the training and how many of them are their CPR going to expire this year? Because I know it lasts about 2 years.
Yeah, every year we get a pretty high turnover rate with the students that whether they be federal work study students, if they're awarded that year, if they're not awarded, that really dictates a lot of times if students come back or not, if they want to come back or not. So we want to make sure that anybody and everybody that signs up to work up at the wellness center, we want to make sure that each and every one of them are CPR AED certified. So that's kind of covering ourselves. We don't want to shortchange.
Yeah, this would be a maximized number, meaning that we think that the max number is going to be 32. We're going to have to do 32 new CPR tests.
Yeah, so I work at the wellness center, and the last time I was CPR certified was January 2016 or July 2016. And like I haven't been, like it's a 2-year thing, so I haven't had to do it. But the thing is, your staff is never the same. Like usually it's only like 20% of your staff is constant from year to year. So usually like staff will have to get more people certified just to
I had a question. I was wondering, the electric utility is listed, but there's no other utilities listed?
I don't believe there are any other utilities associated with the well, so we don't have running water in there.
We have the water, but that doesn't get covered up in there. We just deal with the electric, really.
So assuming the budget gets approved, when do you guys plan on having all this stuff like replaced?
We could do it over the summertime. Preferably when there's not as many.
Exactly.
Yeah, with the addition of the dumbbell, do you need new benches as well? Or?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Nice. Any other questions on the wellness side? Spelman.
So we're paying for group fitness instructors to be certified, that's a thing we do as well?
No.
Okay,
As far as
$800 allocated.
up there for so it's CPR. Sorry. Yes. Instructors that do say if a student wanted to come in and say I'm interested in becoming so and so certified, we could pay for a student to get certified. We can do that.
Okay, and so then do they teach some classes for us for
Well,
free?
they could.
Or
Well, they would teach for free. Yes. I
Okay.
thought, yeah.
Okay, so that would take it, okay. And then the last question I have, sorry. So replacement for group exercise equipment. I'm trying to think about what we all would have in there. I know we have like yoga mats.
Yoga
balls,
mats,
rollers.
boxes, the boxes we jump on, the foam rollers. We have jump ropes up there. Those seem to grow legs and escape. So yeah, that's any and everything.
Okay.
So with the error in the slide before, would you still be requesting this amount for your grant expense total?
Say again, I'm sorry.
So are you gonna ask for this amount still, or are you gonna change because of the error?
Is this amount with the actual salaries or the ones that were on the last slide? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. And finance will look through that as well.
There's a $15,000 discrepancy from what's listed in the line items to the total.
Okay. So it would be closer to 200 and
That's right.
207. Closer.
At some point, I think somebody mentioned that there's like a fixed amount of weights that you can have against like the one wall because like floor concerns or something if it got too heavy, like there was like too much stress. Is that like all considered in with like, the weights and stuff like that we put in the machines?
That was from what I've been told is when the facility was made. That's for dropping weights, for reinforcing, for dropping weights, for staff who would be housed underneath that area, just to keep from, obviously somebody's working in their office, clang and bang, really annoying. But as far as for say the dumbbell space in that back area, I mean I've been to many different gyms, and the policies just word of mouth or hey, please don't drop the weights in this area. I mean, it can be done.
Yeah, because we have reinforced floors up in the front, but not in the back. Any other questions on this? Okay.
Thank you. This is our FY19 intramural request. There's around $20,000, almost $21,000 for salary and benefits. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Seth, a portion of that goes to you as the coordinator.
That's correct.
About $10,000, and then the other $10,000 is spent on student workers, helping facilitate, officiate, plan, and all of that. And then the operations, that's buying equipment, buying t-shirts, buying replacements of balls, flags, you name it. And if we happen to expand or start a different intramural sport, that would be covered out of that. It's a budget neutral request. At this point in time, if we were looking at doing some sort of traveling nationally or competing statewide, we probably have to look at increasing it a little bit. But at this point in time, I don't think we're looking into that. Any questions? Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years before, but our flag football champions, like BH's flag football champions, and is that something we're still gonna do? Because I don't think there's cost associated with that. Everybody usually travels themselves.
Right.
Yep.
It's only the t-shirts, I'm guessing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. But as far as participation, they didn't bring anybody. It tended to be 2 years in a row that we would go up there and play, and we would take 5 teams, and they'd have 5 teams, and then they would have 1, and we'd end up playing 5 of our teams. And just a lack of commitment on their end, an organization. So I'm not pitting one school against the other, but just not a lot of communication from their side.
I actually think that would be something that can help grow our rivalry down the road, even maybe possibly with Shattered State, if it could be, if the cost could be covered. Where maybe it's even a neutral play at Sioux Park or something like that, or something different. We've actually spoken about that, athletic directors and presidents of the institution 2 years ago down in Shattered State. It's just, everybody kind of looks at each other when they say, okay, who's going to cover the costs? Me, so, but it's something that we're entertaining down the road. Anything else?
Other questions?
I'm not going to read what I put in here. These are just some highlights. I will add that within the last couple days, it's not public consumption yet. We're putting out a press release. We'll be adding a 14th sport. It's not an NCAA Division II sanctioned sport yet, but we will be adding esports to the athletic department per the esports club team's request. Wide Angle has done an exceptional job of helping move this thing along, and John Keller. There have been numerous institutions across the country who have started esports. Kind of depends on which institution it is, whether it's in athletics or it's under student development. I personally believe once the NCAA figures out how they can make money on it, that it will develop a bunch of rules, laws, and regulations, and it will become an official NCAA sport. So then there'll be amateurism and professionalism. So I think it's a good thing. I think it fits. It's a home run with our demographic of individuals who go to school here, and I'm kind of excited to start working on it. I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for an esports symposium in Des Moines, Iowa. So, yeah, we are. Oops, wrong way. We have added an institution in our conference. Dixie State has come in. They've been playing football here for the last 2 years, but now the rest of their sports are coming into our conference, which makes 16 institutions. Unfortunately, that means travel costs are going to go up. Travel time are going to go up. In that last slide, I said the average scholar athlete in the NCAA Division II puts in 85 hours a week or dedicates 85 hours a week between academics, athletics, and community service. Here at this institution, with as much as we travel, from Rapid City to Salt Lake is a 12.5-hour bus trip one way. And there's an additional 5.5 hours from Salt Lake to Dixie State. We have some challenges that other places in the country don't have. We spend a lot of time on the bus. We spend a lot of time on the road. Our athletes are well above 85 hours a week, averaging out in their dedication. So our costs are increasing. It'll be an every other year thing where we don't travel there every year, but we do have, when they come here, it's an extra game, so it's an extra additional cost for running the table, officiating, and things like that. Unfortunately, in college athletics, unless you cut programs, the costs don't go, they don't trend downward, they just keep going up. This slide is probably better. It's my understanding that there were some questions on where or how the funding has been spent and the percentages. So for example, I'll just go down the line. Our football program, that's $74,000. That would be 31% of the total operations budget for this past year. So the general activity fee, the way it works in the state of South Dakota, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, each athletic director comes, makes a presentation to the student association and says this is what we would like to request from the general activity fee. At other institutions across the country, you as individuals are paying a certain fee within your bill, and that $10 a credit hour, arbitrary number, is going towards athletics. So it's just like an apple and an orange different way to do this. At private institutions, I know for a fact, like Texas Christian University, I had an opportunity to go down there 2 years ago and sit down with their athletic director. When they do their fundraising, a large majority of their fundraising is done totally for athletics, and it's all funneled into athletics. So whether you're an athlete or not, you may make a $1,000 donation. If you say this goes into the annual fund, it's funneled into athletics. As an example, Texas Christian University 2 years ago, the athletic director's responsibility was $54 million that he had to fundraise. That's salaries, benefits, operations, recruiting, scholarships, the whole ball of wax is all 100% fundraised, and the institution doesn't give him any funding. So then an institution's tuition and revenue and fees from you all taking classes is then funneled back into the operations of the institution. So, for example, the GAF funding, and I don't know how these percentages got set up. This is the way they were when I walked in the door in 2014. No one said, here's our formula for this. This is the allocation of what we're getting. I do know, I don't know if there was anyone in the room when I first came here, for example, we were under some serious cuts that took place as an institution so that we could get out of debt. And for example, and you'll see on my next slide, you can see from 13 to 14, there was almost a $300,000 decrease or cut in athletic operations. That's not scholarship money, that's pure operations, because nobody lost their job. We just, as an institution, took that money from operations. As an example, I came here and I knew for a fact that we were going to be $131,000 short I funneled it all into one program, and it was for football. And the student association gave the athletic department $130,000 so that we could just facilitate this was severe bare bones in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. As you can see where we're at right now, this was the FY16 data that we submitted. This is total operations. This is 3.6 million. All of Division II is the red line, the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and then our peer institutions. We're woefully behind where we need to be overall as an athletic department. Kind of goes back to what I was stating earlier. Unfortunately, unless you cut programs and take that funding and put it into other programs, this line trend is going to stay that way. So again, I don't know what the formula is. If you want to sit down with me in the business office and figure out some sort of formula where we are 25% or arbitrary percentage for each program, I'd be happy to do that. The way I understand how it goes is you make your recommendation after I make my presentation, the business office looks at that number, and then after they decide what I'm going to get after my presentation to the business office and the budget committee, it's then filled in. It's kind of filling in the holes until we get to a number where we can facilitate. As an example, I mean, as you are funding, GAF is funding 100% of the operations for men's and women's golf. And we are, in 2 slides, this comparative data that you can get on the NCAA website. You can go to www.ncaa.org. This is the percentage of where we rank. This is the bottom 17 percentile of 311 institutions that have Division II athletics. This is NCAA rank nationwide. This is what our budget was for football. That is inclusive of salary, benefits, and scholarships, everything it takes to run the football program. This is the average Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, what everybody average or median average of what they're spending in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. We're good in football, but as you can see in everything else, we have a long way to go. As an example, we're $161,000 short of what the average Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference volleyball program sticks into their program. So my request is increased from the year before. I've added soccer. When I made my presentation last year, one of the questions that came up was why aren't we supporting soccer? As an example, Coach Conniff came to me and wanted to buy some new campus goals because he says there's a couple of them that are broke down at the football field and need to be replaced. So that $2,500 or $2,500 would go towards getting new goals for our soccer program. This is a 1% increase of the overall FY18 operations budget. I asked for a 4%. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just had a question. 14,000 is actually 5% increase.
No.
That's
of the total FY18 budget, not what you're allocating.
Okay. Sorry, just
Yep, that's okay.
clarify that.
Yep, you're the math guy. I'm the history guy. I appreciate it. I actually got you on that one.
It's common, don't worry.
So I asked for a 4% increase from the institution. Like I stated in the other slide, we're woefully behind. Using women's golf as an example, the budget we have is not enough money to play the amount of tournaments that the NCAA allows you to play. We play maybe half of them. So we're asking our kids to participate at the end of the year because we don't have the funding and half as many opportunities as other programs are getting. Now our geographic location hurts that a little bit, but and don't get me wrong. As an example, in women's volleyball, we allocate half of what the NCAA says we can for scholarships. So the number for scholarships for volleyball would be $200,000. We have $100,000 that we allocate for volleyball scholarships. So you make this up in a hurry. I'm sorry, wrong way. You make a good portion of that up in a hurry. If I can fully fund the volleyball program and find scholarship, but we're still going to be $60,000 short, meaning travel, going places.
Just a quick question, and Ezra can correct me if I'm wrong here. So the cheerleaders were umbrellaed underneath the Hard Rocker Athletics.
They
Last year or the year prior.
They've been for, I think, the last 2 years. Yep.
They're still budget requesting out of the SOAP funds, and they're not umbrellaed underneath the GAP funds. Do you know why that is?
They're one of the examples of I take from my athletic administration budget and give them an additional $1,500.
Yeah, they are not an officially NCAA. So.
Yeah, we don't. They're a team. Here's the reason why. When I first got here, cheerleading, there wasn't a whole lot of leadership. They showed up when they wanted to show up. If it was raining or if it was cold, they left mid-game. In my eyes, that's not acceptable. So I asked Pat if they could be under athletics. To my knowledge, they didn't have much of a budget. We weren't paying someone a whole lot of money. I requested last year and got actual salary to pay the coach, where I was before taking it from my budget and paying her. It's a process. Next year they're on the list of being asked for budget, and maybe we can alleviate it from GAF. But I'm encouraging them to find funds any way they can to help support. They also do a fundraising campaign where they write letters to about 20 to 25 people in their neighborhood besides mom and dad to help with funding. That's another example of a program that we're not funding the way we could fund it. They've done an exceptional job over the last 2 years. They are involved in our athletic department, meaning they get to use the training room, they get to use the strength and conditioning. We make sure they have enough money so that they have practice gear and t-shirts. I kind of view it as I'm showing them a little TLC, a little love, and then I set expectations, and they've been meeting them the last 2 years. They've been phenomenal the last 2 years. Yep.
I just, back to that 1%, $14,000 increase, I think it's on the previous slide. So if I'm understanding, so the $14,000 is 1% of your total operations budget?
Yeah, of the total FY18 operations budget.
Correct. So that would put the operations budget at 1.4 million, if I'm correct?
Yeah, it's about 1.3 something or other like that, yeah.
So then what was the...
Now, when I say operations, I mean travel, I mean buying equipment, I don't mean salaries and benefits, I don't mean scholarships.
Okay, so then I guess my follow-up question is, 1% increase, is that also being reflected in your request to the institution, or is that 1% just being submitted to the GAF request? Do you see sort of what I'm asking? So in terms of like...
So if you were to grant what I requested and the institution were to grant what I requested, it would be a 5% total increase,
right,
to the athletic operational budget.
Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions?
I was just looking at comparatively the size of our competitors' schools versus the size of ours. And I mean, I know we do have substantially less funding than them, but if you think about, I just looked at Dixie State and they have 8,000 students there, undergraduate only, almost 9,000, versus our 2,000 undergraduate.
2,400.
2,400.
The average.
That's still about.
Yeah, the average NCAA Division II institution undergraduate enrollment is 2,400.
The average, right? Okay.
You can find that at NCAA.org also.
Thank you.
It fluctuates even at the Division I level. TCU has 10,000 students. Texas has 70. Texas's operating budget is 153 million. TCU's budget, which is in the same exact conference, is 54. So it's you're always going to have the have-nots. You're always going to have those difficulties and issues.
Any other questions?
So formally, my request is for a $14,000, $562 increase, as you see here. And then what I would do is work with Ms. Forney in the budget office to make sure that it was allocated that way.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it very, very much. Please, if any other questions come up, don't hesitate to drop me an email or even stop in my office. My office is always open, and I'll volunteer that for staff as well.
Absolutely. Door's always open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Finance will be looking, as that was our last GAF request, finance will be deliberating and they'll present their recommendations in a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Yes, the first meeting after spring break.
First meeting after spring break is what Ezra says. We will hold them to it. Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. Jake's freaking out about computers. Sorry. Okay. We'll move on to resolution number 18S013, which is the Township Committee.
Handle Overpeller, resolution 18S013, 21st of February 2018, originated by Finance Committee, presented by myself, Senator Mrs. Coleman, whereas this is the second reading, I will not read.
Discussion on this resolution. Seeing opposed? Seeing no discussion, motion to approve. There's been a motion to approve made by Senator Pavlicek, seconded by Senator Dexter. Discussion on that motion. Okay, Senator Elmore, thank you.
Yes, sorry, I probably should have said something before, but Felix, I'm sorry. Because this is such an important resolution, I would like to hear some opinions, I guess.
Would you be willing to share your opinion?
Yeah, my opinion is that it's great, and I'm gonna vote yes.
Say what, brother?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, probably one of the largest allocations we made as a Senate, at least in my time here, pretty substantial. It's really, if it's approved, it's really gonna rest on the concert committee members to put it through, which is, more power to them, so we support them in their endeavors.
A lot of responsibility.
A lot of responsibility.
Senator McBride.
So, my opinion, when I'm talking to students, I know there's a lot of them who we talk to them about, oh, we're gonna have a concert next fall. They say, why are you spending that money on a concert? But I think the thing about it, that the reason why I support it is because we are expecting to make we're expecting to make more money off than we spend on it. And even if we don't, I think there's a good chance that we're at least going to make most of that. So the overall risk is quite a bit lower than the $170,000. I think it's the biggest thing that when I've talked to other students is, why are you blowing all this money? But because we're expecting to make that back, I think is why we can justify it.
Well, sure.
Initially, when
this was first a thing. Whenever I talk to people, they would always have like kind of things. They were like, "Oh, this is a waste of money. Why don't we spend this on, insert whatever, depending on the person." But I think now that we have more of like a vision and it's much more concrete, I've gotten a lot more positive feedback and people thinking that, oh, this could be like the Lazaran division. This could be something that'd be really cool to do that could impact, much more than just like, oh, we're gonna, spend a bunch of money out of the gap, throw a big pizza party, like I think that I've seen mostly positive things, so I think it's a good idea.
I think the closer, if students do have like hesitancies about it, the closer we get, there's going to be like excited vibe throughout all the students in the school. And we don't always, I feel like as Mind students have like a ton of Mind school spirit, but I think this is going to be like a great event for a lot of people to come together and put their energy towards, and it might help that a lot.
Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we will move on to a roll call vote.
Students every week.
What? That's what the discussion was. Wake up.
Okay. Not
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Crum.
Aye.
Elvedekis.
Aye.
Roxadali.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Bottom.
Aye.
Rio. Barthel.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Otten.
Aye.
Yoder.
Aye.
Light.
Aye.
Cadellis.
Aye.
Bolsher.
Aye.
Knight.
Aye.
Knudsen.
Aye.
Penning.
Aye.
Spillman.
I think she answered, I think.
Aye. Sorry.
There's resounding comps. Dexter.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Aye.
Robert is aye.
Aye. Great, well, I will review this resolution and tell concert committee if I'm gonna veto it or not, so. I'm excited, I think that it will be good for campus. So we have one new resolution this week, and that is resolution number 18S014, GSS supplemental request. Like, pull it up.
Senator Cardenas, I put your name on it. Surprise.
There you go.
Campbell over for resolution number 18S004, originating on the 28th of February 2018, originated by Finance Committee, presented by myself. Whereas the Graduate Student Society organization has approached the Finance Committee with a supplemental request for funds to travel to the It's All About Science conference in Sioux Falls. Whereas the appropriate paperwork has been filed with the Finance Committee, and whereas the Finance Committee has deemed $861 as an appropriate amount to the organization, and therefore be it resolved by a majority vote of the student senate and a signature of the student association president that $861 be allocated from the SOAP reverted funds account 4SA003 to the Graduate Student Society.
Okay, Safer Grove.
I would like to make a friendly amendment. 18S014
Yes.
is top.
Thank you.
And then I also have a couple of comments about this group, just to fill you in. So this is the Graduate Student Society. Last year they asked for $5,300 for this year. We allocated them $1,034, so they got cut 81%. There was a couple of reasons for that. One of them was fundraising. When asked about fundraising, they've fundraised $40 this year, which is not great. But they did do an event and it just really flopped for them. So what this event is, it's in Sioux Falls. They go to it every year. Last year they went and they didn't have enough SOAP funds to do it, so they actually paid out of pocket to drive. And this year they wanted to apply for supplementals, so they didn't have to pay out of pocket again. They're bringing 15 people. Me and Ed, or Senator Knudsen, met with them, and they seemed like they were pretty excited about the event. And as far as we could tell, it seemed like it was a pretty beneficial event. This 861, if you'd like to scroll down, covers the
Senator Spelman, would you scroll down? Save right now, isn't it?
the 861 covers the travel for the van. They also asked for food, but we cut food because they originally asked for $1,566.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. Senator Hofer.
There was like a cap at like $750. Is that only for like international travel, or is that like it was like the money?
That's for plane tickets, right?
Oh, okay.
That's correct. That's for international plane tickets.
Okay.
This was van travel.
That's pretty.
Senator Roder. Yep. Further discussion on this resolution? Okay, we'll see this next week. That brings us to the open discussion. Whatever's next. Items for open discussion. Senator Providence.
So we were discussing this in the board yesterday, but we have close to 3,000 in fundraised dollars. And then again, like we came to, it's all been accumulated since the past, and we came to the discussion that we've had numerous discussions in Senate whether we should fundraise or no. If we fundraise, where do we use the money? We do it out of good faith. So like one idea we came with is I'm going just right after spring break. I'm going to go to Dr. Larry Simonson, and I'm going to ask him for dollars to give out those scholarships. So for the first year, like
For the 135.
yeah, the Club 135 app. So for the first year, if we show him initiative, like say however we do it, 500, 300 per semester or whatever, we'll decide. We'll discuss that in more detail soon. But how about we use some of that money, which has been there since like last couple of years, just a little amount, maybe like 1,000 for the first year, and use that to fund these scholarships. And that way, like, since we don't have the parking spot, but there have been other ideas of fundraising, and this could be what we fundraise for. That's one of the ideas we pitched in. And I don't know, in the long run, if this whole thing, if alumni and foundation see an actual increase in like school spirit, this we might not have to do it in the future. But the way if we do this, we can actually call it the student. We can name the scholarship out of Student Senate. That's an idea we have. If we go through the foundation, I mean we'll be organizing this whole thing. But it won't be a scholarship we give. It'll be the donor's name on it. So I want to hear thoughts and on this.
Hold more. I did.
I guess I'm curious, like, where it came from. Like, is it just all the money we receive in the cash box?
It's the money that has been fundraised that has not been spent anywhere.
So,
Or see if I got
Yeah, it's actually more than 3,000. That's what I was telling people, but it's closer to 4,000. It's like 3,800 at the moment.
is it the money that was in the cash box?
So some of it came from the cash box.
Because, just for background, like, that money was just from money that Simmers paid for Polo, so that, whatever that portion was, wasn't necessarily fundraised money.
we still have Polo money.
Okay, that was my question.
Any for Senator Glum?
I like the idea of it. I think we should use it on something. I think that'd be good. I don't know how we allocate it or who to give it to, but it's a cool gesture. So.
Is there discussion on anything else to use the money for other than a scholarship?
That's what we have you for.
2 donuts per student?
Nope.
Everybody gets 2 donuts.
I like it.
Senator McBride.
What if we use it to just supplement and increase our gap size?
Actually, you are absolutely correct. That is what we are supposed to use our fundraising for each year. That's what other clubs use their fundraising for. In the past, we've never needed to do that because our request is always sufficient to cover our budget, so we don't have to dip into our backups. But you're correct, we could reduce our request and simply just chip away that way.
Further discussion, Holscher.
This kind of comes in, I was talking with the president of the formula team, and we were talking about things to do with different like student orgs on campus when I went to like the one-on-ones, and one of the things that he thought was that he thinks that there should be better communications, and he thought the one-on-ones were a great step, but maybe something else to also, especially for like the really big organizations that we give tens of thousands of dollars to, that he says that he feels like they should have a higher step of accountability, and that they feel like they should work harder than just like 5 minutes in their self-presentation, as well as just like an open-minded communication. And the other things we talked about were somehow getting together with like, the proposition was like the top like 10 or 15 or so like gap requests, and maybe having like some kind of like event where we all like get together to like just have like a dinner or something like that. And the idea is that we would understand more about like who these people are, understand like what kind of things that they face for like their challenges and stuff like that, and we can help spread that to the student body, help like they were talking specifically like freshmen, they have like a really hard time getting like any kind of like publicity and stuff for that. They were also talking about tours. They would love to give tours to every single one of us here if we wanted to at any point, like in the next like foreseeable future, if we like planned ahead. He said that would also be echoed across all of the different people in that entire like department. They would love to have us there so we can understand exactly where this kind of money goes to. And I was thinking that maybe like future vision for that could be including somehow getting like freshmen there or something like that. A way to like tie that kind of things in, but that was kind of the idea that I was having with like the fundraising money, kind of going to things like that. And I mean, like obviously tours, that doesn't cost any money. We could organize events like that, and that would be basically free.
Thank you for the one-on-one. Further thoughts on these $3,800? CFO, good.
I think Senator probably said maybe you could report back after you meet with him and kind of find out sort of if it could move forward, and then we can decide if we want to start with the scholarship.
Yeah, so the only reason like I was thinking about doing it, like yesterday I just spoke about it for the first year. So that would be like a maximum of $1,000 dip into the fundraising for the whole academic year. And this will include like multiple scholarships, not just one or two. There'll be smaller amounts. But the reason I thought this would be a good gesture is because we're obviously like we haven't tried this before. This is like doing it with the app and just going straight out and asking the foundation for scholarships to be diverted there. Like doing this shows that even we are interested in doing that. So they might like there's a better chance of getting it because they'll see that we have as much vision in increasing school spirit as the alumni do, and it just shows more initiative. Like $1,000, like it's just a number I pulled out, but that would be on the highest side. We would have to dip it. So when I go to him with like when Jake and I actually go to him with like a proposal, like I want to show him like we're putting in like this much effort, but like we also really want to get this started, and this might help them get the gears rolling faster.
So do we just, after you guys have a meeting, you'll kind of report back?
After we have so I will report back after the meeting, see what he feels, and I'll propose this as an idea, but I want to know, like, can we do an informal show of hands who would be interested to maybe spend a maximum of $1,000 over the next full school year in scholarships?
Sure. If you're in support of that, would you raise your hand? Aye. Okay. Opposed? And while because that's not a definite, think about this. How could Senate utilize? I mean, not egregious amounts of money, but $3,800, what could we do to help improve students on campus? So if you guys would give that some thought for next week, that would be good. Senator Dexter.
Is this something we would continue to fundraise to be able to fulfill, or would we just fulfill this until we ran out of money?
So, the intent was if this, we would have to continue to fundraise, but as of now, we didn't even plan on it being more than a year. It would just be the first year to get everybody on board, so like we supported, and then eventually it would just be it all depends on the success of the whole thing. Like you need to see a visible increase in students going games and being active over other clubs as well.
Further discussion on this topic? Any other items for open discussion?
Yes, I'm going to bring up the finance discussion again because we didn't actually get a chance to talk about it last week. So just to remind people, 2 weeks ago we kind of had an informal vote to decide what people felt about funding the SEEK conference, but more generally funding religious activities as well as religious organizations, religious affiliating organizations on campus. And so we met the finance team and we kind of talked about this, most of the finance team, and we kind of felt that one way to approach the problem was to sort of very closely mimic the language that's in the Board of Regents policy. So the Board of Regents policy says that student orgs cannot be funded if they do sectarian exercises, which is kind of an esoteric terminology. But if we changed our SOAP constitution so that we removed anything relating to religious descriptions and just had that same language that we weren't going to fund sectarian exercises, we wouldn't be going beyond and we wouldn't be going beneath what the Board of Regents sort of dictates. So we'd be safe, but then the question is, what does that exactly mean? Like how do we interpret it? That would be the next discussion, but what do you guys think about the idea of removing the language regarding religious organizations and just moving in the direction of the Board of Regents policy?
So I mentioned this earlier, yesterday in e-board too as well, and this definitely it keeps us in the Senate safe, but is it our complete students' opinion? No. So one of the things we came up with is the Monday after spring break, we'll be sending out a multi-day, a big survey with pretty much this question. I'll be sitting with Ezra and when he meets the finance committee, if they're going to meet again this week, but get the exact wording so we're not diverting the opinion of students. So because I know that the SOAP constitution is not very it's not worded very well. There's a lot of errors. That's why every year finance tries to fix it. But there's been I feel that the reason that rule is in our SOAP constitution is there's probably a reason to it. And right now, I think we need more student opinion on this whole topic as a whole. And I think that a lot of people will vote on it because it's a sensitive issue. The people who wouldn't support it will be like, no, I don't want my money going there. People in support it will be like, I don't mind my money going there. So Monday after spring break I'll be sending out a survey, President will.
I don't know that that's really that necessary. Aren't we elected officials to make those kind of decisions based on the opinions of our constituents? If we're just letting them decide the vote, then it's just a direct democracy and what's the point of the Senate?
Alright, and then also if you're gonna have them talk about religious clubs, I'm not say I'm not religious, I don't want my money going to a religious club. But if you're not in sports and you don't want your money going to the wellness center or stuff like that, you'll always have differing opinions over what clubs should exist and what clubs should not.
So I honestly kind of don't feel like the email needs to go out either because you're gonna have a bunch of people saying no and a bunch of people saying yes. Because everybody has different experiences and different opinions.
Spellman.
I know this is very controversial, but we went first time discussing it. I'd like to limit discussion to 10. I'd like to motion to limit discussion.
There is any motion to limit this discussion to 10 minutes. Seconded by made by Spellman, seconded by Providence. Discussion. Okay, this is a roll call one, right? No? No. Okay, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Timer started.
Okay, further discussion on this, on the Pride's hand.
So on what she said, I would have to agree, if you just send out a poll saying should, religion organizations be funded, I don't think we have a lot of, you'd probably get majority saying no. But if you send out a poll saying should the dance team be funded, you'd also probably have a majority saying no. But we don't consider it not fair to fund them because they're just because that's their personal interests. So just if you limit it so much, then obviously the majority are not going to be interested in that and not going to money going towards that.
Oh, sure.
So if we get back the results of this survey and they say we shouldn't fund these kind of people, and then we don't change the language, then where does that really leave us in relation to the Board of Regents policy? I think it's a good idea to mimic that, regardless of what they say. I think that it's something that's gonna have to happen, or at least we're gonna have to not break those kinds of rules.
Yeah, I wanted to echo that sentiment. I think the Board of Regents policy is what we should, number one, be going on. I think that we are elected officials not only to support the opinion of our student body, but also reflect what the South Dakota Board of Regents wants higher education institutions to be doing with their activities in their minds. So.
I would just kind of say that I think it would be important to send out a poll on this because I don't know about a lot of you, but I think most senators do not talk to their constituents on a regular basis. I think it's something that most senators just don't do. They don't go out and ask opinions. I think it's a good way to reach a large portion of the student body and get kind of an overlying opinion. I think it'd be important to include the current wording in the sub-constitution and what the proposed change to the sub-constitution would be, so people can kind of see what the actual difference is instead of should be funded religious organizations or should be not. Kind of gives people the actual difference to look at.
And also, going back to, I stated this earlier, but going back the whole wording with the Board of Regents, I know that is what said it, it's to cover us and just to be safe, but there's so many states that are implementing legalization of marijuana. I mentioned this a couple meetings ago, but it's still illegal federally. Are you saying that they shouldn't do that? Everybody has different views, but we need everybody's views on this.
Dexter.
I don't know if it would be the best idea to send out this poll or not. I definitely agree that not everybody reaches out to their constituents to get information, but also they don't, unless they're clearly given the background information and they fully understand the what we're trying to discuss right now. I just don't feel that many of them will fully understand what we're trying to say, and then they won't vote accordingly, and it just won't go anywhere.
Right.
Two quick things. One, in response, I agree with Sahil. I don't think we have an obligation specifically to be trying to enforce Board of Regents policies. They obviously can do whatever's in their power, but on what Senator Barfeld said, that following the wording of Board of Regents policy, I'm not sure if we want to follow the exact wording because, like we were saying before, that the word sectarian kind of is just confusing how it's put in there.
Spellman, did you hand up Scott?
No.
Okay, you need some.
One, I was going to say, most of the wording in that Board of Regents is just lawyer speak. It's just legalese to protect the state. It's not probably even necessarily the opinion of the Board of Regents. It's the protection of their, personnel. What was wrong with the idea of reaching out to all the other student senates and then just mimicking a collective policy.
So
along all
we
of
have
those.
reached that, we have
Yes,
reached
but they already had a consensus of how they approach it, why don't we just mimic that? So we're all on the same boards, the state follows its own policy collectively on an institutional student level.
Providence Cyrus in response.
Yep, so from what I've heard, we only have response from NSU, who funds them, and from what I know, BH doesn't fund them, and that's the only responses we have right now. And we don't even have USD, SDSU, DSU, all those others. So if you want to go by that, like, we need the majority. Just going because what NSU does and BH doesn't, so it's a 50-50 there. I think BH follows the Board of Regents thing, but from what I've heard, they don't.
Also, like, if we send this out about should we fund religious organizations or not, they're going to feel like targeted. It's like, why were they only discussing religious ones? Why aren't they talking about political ones or of that nature? You're like selecting them out and putting them on the spotlight. You also have that.
I would agree that people will feel targeted. I know I personally have spoken to my constituents, and what I found was surprising in that my non-religious constituents were far more willing to fund than, say, the religious ones. The religious ones had a lot more questions, where non-religious were just like, no, I mean, if it's inclusive, we're including all, it's okay. And the religious ones had a lot more questions, and I think that will be the biggest issue with the survey, is no one's there for a follow-up.
Rogers.
That was also my general feel when I talked to people that I wanted to get a feel for. That was one of my understandings, was they wanted to know why they were back and forth, and like, if it was inclusive, that should be the big part of it.
I was going to say, so we're starting to run out of time, but it seems like we've talked a bit. Would people be willing to have an informal vote on whether this email should be sent out in the survey?
McBride first.
On that email, even if we don't use it as like a binding, okay, this is what students said, this is how we vote, it might at least get conversations started among students. It might be easier for us to hear their opinions in our conversations later on.
If we do send out a survey, I would prefer that the wording come to the Senate prior to being sent.
That's what I was going to say. Like, once Ezra and I have that wording, we'll send it out to everybody. If there's a majority informal vote or whatever, that we send it out, we'll send it out.
Okay, sure. Well, let's.
So I just have one more. We've already voted on this twice informally as a collective.
At least once.
Just once.
Just once, okay.
And that was
the previous vote for it.
And that was just regarding
the seat.
The seat conference. Now we're talking more generalized across the board.
Okay, sure. Let's take an informal vote of people who would be interested in reaching out to students in some form, be it survey or otherwise. If you're in support of that, would you raise your hand? Aye. Okay. Like all those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, thanks. We will continue conversations on this topic, though, both with other universities as well as please take this time over spring break, reach out to your constituents about this. It is important. Talk to people who are involved in religious orders, people who are not, people in the middle. And yeah, get student opinion. See if I'm good.
Yep, and I guess now that where this leaves us, we won't be sending out a survey most likely based on the results of that. But the where it leaves us now is that we have to make a decision as our Senate. I don't think that we've reached a decision yet on what we want that wording to be. So I guess that means I'll be bringing it up again next time. Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
Please, yeah, and please prepare for that conversation. Goes back to the reaching out to constituents. Okay, any other items for open discussion? Senator McBride.
Don't want to start another big discussion today, but I think it might be worth it after seeing the athletics presentation to have like an open forum for somebody to hear from students about what their feelings are on their, potentially their tuition money going towards athletics, and just hearing what, there's plenty of students who are we're for it. I've also heard students complain about it, but maybe we have something where they can hear like how much money actually goes and where it goes, and just get student opinions on do they want their money going towards golf or volleyball or football.
Ex-President Elmore.
I think if we do that, it would be really helpful to have Joel and or Seth there, just if there are questions about how the money's spent, so they have a chance to defend their money, because,
Cardelis.
So I think that could turn ugly real quick, and if you're gonna do that, you should have everybody who's going to get gap. So like have Survet come in, like we should be there saying this is what we're getting, so they get a broader view, like this is how it's getting divided up, instead of just focusing just on athletics. But I feel like that's just gonna be a really ugly conversation if we turn it into a forum.
So, thank you for your comment. I think that that's a great idea, and I think that we need to do a better job of communicating our financial decisions to the students. I will also make the point that this is a public forum, and this is what the GAF presentations are for the Senate, as well as anyone who decides to attend, to know what is going on. I think that there is a cloud of mystery about the finances of what happens with GAF. I know we were working with President Brzezinski, at the time of his presidency last semester to put together a document. I don't believe anything was ever sent out. That's something that we can definitely continue to talk about. I think having a conversation where it's just athletics is very similar to the religious in that you are potentially targeting one group of students versus the other accessories. But I think that if you guys have ways that you can have an open discussion without it turning ugly, that's something that we should definitely look at. So,
And another important thing to keep in mind with whether you're talking about religious funding or you're talking about athletic funding is that if you ask every student is going to tell you that they want to spend their money in a different way. You're never going to get 100% consensus, or maybe not even a majority consensus of students saying what they want to fund. Like, one student's going to say they want all of their gap year to go to robotics, and there's no way we can do that. So that's why it's up to us as Senate to say we're going to distribute the money in this way to lessen the negative impact that we would have on the majority of students by the way that we're funding the money. So there's no way that we're going to do it that's going to make everyone 100% happy. And I mean, that doesn't mean that we can't try to do it, but.
right, and I mean, you guys know me, I'm a huge proponent for student input on everything, but understand that the system has been built in a way so that we can actually get through conversations, because if you can imagine how long that athletic presentation went with us, imagine how long it would go with the entire student body. There's a systemic need for a conversation like this rather than an open. But I think keeping people informed and keeping people in the loop so that they can talk to their representatives is the most important aspect of the way that our system is set up. That would be my response. If anyone else on this topic has discussion or McBride.
So then it would just be a question: Have any of you guys heard, like, personally, I enjoy going to football games, but have any of you heard from your constituents opinions on funding athletics?
Cardelis.
A lot of my floor is like they don't understand. Like we got, I think it was just recently $12 million more for athletic scholarships and stuff from alumni. I don't know. They're like, why is it just towards athletics? Is what their thoughts were. Is like, why isn't that spread out between other students who aren't in athletics? Type deal.
That's a question?
What?
That's their question, or are you asking?
Yeah,
that
like that's what their question is. Like, why is it always going to athletics?
Because athletic alumni, people want,
Like,
people donate their money and they be like, I want this money going to athletics. That's how it goes. Because athletics fundraises individually compared to the school. So the school does fundraise, but they fundraise for the school. But Joe Lucan and all those guys, they go out, the Hard Rock Club, they go out individually and fundraise even more for athletic scholarships. So they have their own fundraising campaign in addition to the schools. The schools pretty much is not that strong towards the athletics, but it's pretty much the athletic fundraising.
Try to did you have something? Okay, see if I'm
Okay, along
Send
the
her
same
over.
lines as that, I just want to say like music does the same thing. We have a lot of our own scholarship coming from other previous musicians that went towards only specific musicians as well.
I'm just from my perspective, one of the people I've talked to, and I mean, granted, this is mostly like guys on Peterson 2 and 3, but like, they never really have a problem with like the athletic department, especially since like I talked to a lot of people where he was talking about like esports then like backing that, and they definitely have. Like I attend their meetings and stuff like that. I was a more active member last semester, but like Wyatt, as just like a president, a former senator, was able to go and talk to them about like getting all this kind of backing and stuff. And the athletic department was very open with like, oh, I'd be glad to take you guys in here, especially since it's like a large demographic of like the people on campus. You know, there's like people in Lower Surbeck in like the cafeteria area. They're playing like D&D and Magic every single day. Like that's a large portion of this campus. And like if athletics is a supportive of like esports and people like them, like athletics isn't like a villain here whatsoever on campus. They're actually pretty like genuinely nice people, and they're willing to like accommodate that kind of demographic.
I think that a lot of these questions, I'm hearing a lot of the sentiment here would be, it'd be beneficial to address them in the form of like a public statement of like, hey, here's a little window of like what we spend GAF on. Just make that information public, and I think that would answer a lot of people's questions. I don't find people complaining one way or the other. It's more like, what is it being spent on? Just a genuine curiosity. So I think that we should address that.
Question, Hill might know the answers. Do you know how many students are in athletics, roughly?
Oh, I think it's right around 200. There's a 240 now. 240, 250. Yeah.
So about 10%.
Yeah.
Just trying to compare that to about how many are in student organizations, because that's roughly similar amount of money going to GAF, and so we're pretty close.
That's a hard data because it's hard to track how many students are involved in student works, but it is probably a comparison. Right? Yeah, mine's
I've kind of been asking around about this recently, and after you explain what GAF is 5 minutes later, the kind of consensus I've gotten is people are fine with their tuition dollars going to athletics. It's just kind of inherent going to school, but GAF is completely different. I mean, the other things GAF goes to, Surbeck Center, counseling, health services, so that's kind of money going to everybody, and athletics is kind of money being spent to send players to other schools to play, and also here operations. It's, but I think it's kind of money going to, that 240 number instead of the entirety of the school. I mean, sure, students are all welcome to go to the games, but it's really paying more for the athletics to operate instead of, just people spectating.
I was going to say, this is true, but that's very common in Board of Regents universities. Every single university funds athletics from GAF. School of Mines is actually the second lowest number. BH funds a larger percentage of their GAF. DSU funds less, but every other university funds more than us.
Sorry, Elma.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, one of the things that I was thinking of when Joel was doing his presentation. So we have to keep in mind that like one of the selling points of our school is that it's a like super low cost institution. So when you don't have a lot of money coming in to begin with, you have to be really creative with how you're going to spend it and where it's going to go. So if we decide that we don't want to fund athletic through our GAF funds, then the school is going to have to find somewhere else to find that money, and chances are they're going to increase their fees in some way. So then it's just going to come out of the student's pocket again. So I guess my thoughts are that if we would decide not to fund this to athletics through GAF, then we're going to be charged for it somewhere else.
I am very comfortable still funding the athletic department as a whole. I do want to bring up the number of like, he said the average size of a AA school is approximately the size of ours. I was looking at within our region though, and I did average them out. The average enrollment in a university within our Rocky Mountain region is nearly 7,000 students. So when we're looking at, you know, how much less we're spending, I think we do need to, you know, I'm just saying let's not all of a sudden knock our price way up and start funding equal. Because there are schools on here with 9,000 students up to 24,000 students. And it would be great if we could give a lot of money to athletics, but based on the demographics of our school and what we like to spend time doing, I think what we give is appropriate. If that makes sense.
Senator Spillman.
Yes.
Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying, but like I have to also comment that I'm in a Hard Rocker Athletics Advisory Board, and if we get less money than what we do give appropriate, but if it goes lower and our performance decreases and the quality of players decreases, then we would have to drop NCAA and go back to NAIA. That is something. I mean, what we're giving is perfectly appropriate, but I'm just saying if we lower that, that's something we need to consider, that it's going to drop enrollment, people that come in just because it's NCAA D2, and we'd have to go back to NAIA.
Response?
Response. I was also looking at enrollment of the school in 2011 versus enrollment of the school now, and our numbers have stayed right about there. So I can't see that becoming NCAA has necessarily brought more students in. So I think it's a great selling point for our school. I don't think it's a selling point that's necessarily bringing in more students. Maybe better athletes, maybe not more students.
Oh, just a couple of things. I may have heard wrong, but did you give a number on a scholarship for athletics?
I thought it was something in the millions. I can't remember, but it came out either end of last semester or beginning of this one.
Did you say 12?
I think so.
Okay, and just so we're not giving out misinformation, it was a 1.2 million.
Oh,
from one donor. And that, again, is just somebody that really cares for athletics. And they raise more than that. And then on the face of the university, athletics does get our name out there, you know, the Hard Rockers, and we're really now looking at Colorado to bring in more students, and that's where a bulk of the RMAC teams are. I just think that name recognition is going to be helpful there. So we'll watch those numbers and see if it doesn't have some correlation in effect. Good point.
Senator Brown.
So I know any final decisions, but I was also thinking, what about maybe specifically those three that we're funding the most, 88% of cross country and track, and 100% of both golf teams. Like you said, there's not really a way you can decrease costs without cutting programs. Considering some of those that are not really spectator sports, not just start thinking about what they bring to the school, what they bring in for that funding.
My question with that would be, and I know this sounds awful, I don't play sports, but what do those sports bring to our school? As an engineering university, they're bringing in a slightly more diverse crowd, right? Like, we have a couple golfers, but what necessarily other than that team of 25 is that bringing?
I'd like to motion to limit discussion to 5 minutes unless we're going to talk about doing something specific, like holding a conference or having a forum or creating a subcommittee.
Thank you, Woodson. There's been a motion seconded by Spillman. All those in favor? Well, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Further discussion on this?
I heard that we're not going to have a women's cross country team next year. Unless they get more.
We're going to have
We'll have some.
Like I heard, like they don't have enough girls at the moment to actually have a team next year.
You have to have certain numbers of men and women, and so they're, for equity. And so
I
there's,
just heard that, like, unless they get a bunch of freshmen who want to do it, they're not going to have it.
I don't believe that to be the case. I mean, I'm on the track team, so I can ask, but I would be surprised. Senator McBride.
So just, would anyone like to stick up for golf and cross country?
Yeah, I'm here because in part, if not quite a bit, because I had the opportunity to continue running. It made a big difference to me. There were schools, I had 2 knee surgeries in high school. I wasn't a top tier athlete. The ability to continue that and get a great quality education was very instrumental in me being a person. What? Am I not allowed to share that opinion?
No, I just thought, are you suggesting that we're bringing in sub-tier athletes?
Yes, well, realistically, I mean, I couldn't have gone somewhere that was a Division I school and continued running. Senator Nutt.
I was just gonna ask, aren't a lot of the cross country and golf athletes like at more than one sport as well? Like, aren't there
There's a decent, there's a lot of football players who also run track. I don't know about golf. But there are multiple sport athletes. CFO, good.
I was going to say during the course of these conversations, I would encourage people, because there's not a lot of athletes in this group. I'm not an athlete myself. I would encourage people to find athlete constituents and talk to them because I think they actually have the true scoop on being an athlete at the school.
So to make it something specific, I'll just say, try to ask students and think about, I'm not saying this is the best idea, but dropping golf, for example, is that a decision worth even considering? Because we are 100% funding it from GAP.
okay. I think sometimes the proportions of what gets funded out of GAP and what doesn't gets kind of wonky. But there is a new contributor who's very excited about Hard Rock for athletics, and I think in the future is going to be funding the golf program. And you have to look at it from being competitive and being a member of the RMAC conference. You have to have X amount of sports, and so to have golf, it's a reasonably low sport to have to fund financially. And so, but that helps towards the credibility of having competitive teams.
Okay, so.
They're not.
Also, didn't we just spend a lot of money to buy that golf machine, like the virtual?
We did allocate
Yeah.
Further discussion on this. Senator Cardelis.
Well, you just allocated, they finally put it in. They were supposed to get it in like November. It was like, I know a girl on the golf team. She was like finally excited because they got it in like earlier this month, but they finally put it in.
Awesome. Senator Allen.
So we have time, one final comment. I'm just be curious, we're talking about how many people athletics directly impacts. I would be interested to know how many people camp directly impacts, and maybe like the amount of money, because we do put a lot of money towards camp and stuff too, and that definitely does impact every student on campus.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay. Any other items for open discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to CFO report.
Great. Okay, so short report because we're running a long meeting, but state of finances is good as usual. There's a couple of supplemental requests that have just come in. They're very large. My rescue team and the ASCE conference, so we're going to have resolutions for that probably after spring break. So kind of a comment about that. We get a lot of supplemental requests, and it seems like a lot, but every year a lot of money doesn't get spent from SOAP organizations, so all that leftover money gets dumped into reserve and gets converted into supplementals. So it actually kind of balances each other out and often turns into a surplus. So I just got word from Heather Forney that our reserve is now closer to 900K than 800K, so it's growing. Finance fact of the day is, so our athletics football budget, you saw that, it's actually twice as big as the football budget at BH, and we still managed to lose. So tell me about it.
Oh, what kind of a fact is that? Please keep your facts positive.
Okay, sorry.
Are there questions for finance? No questions? Seeing none, end of report. Jake, what do you have?
I'm just astounded. Sorry.
It was meant in good humor. I didn't mean it. Sorry.
Jake, you have a report.
I don't really have much. I just want to say thank you for approving the concert resolution. That's awesome. I know a lot of you are on it, and so we'll have more information on future events with that, or progression with that.
So we're going to have changes set in pretty soon, and some members of the concert committee or people who will be involved in that will not it might not be in Senate. So what do you?
This is not a Senate organization, anyways. Concert committee. So it
I
won't
thought it was
matter.
umbrella under us.
Happen. Great. So it won't really matter.
Because that would be kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Questions for Jake? He says, mad respect for Danica.
Yes. Yes. She does a lot. I'm realizing that now.
Okay. All right. So for my report, one-on-ones. Everybody who hasn't done one should have gotten an email, and most of you have replied to me. So thank you for that. If you would, after you have your meeting, send me an email with anything that you gained or that you were able to contribute to that organization. Just sort of, what the dialogue was like. That way we have it for records, and it just allows us to sort of start inching our way towards a better relationship with all the orgs. Let's see. What else do I have for you? Sorry, I didn't pull mine out beforehand. New committee members. Ben, who's not here. Connor, or you're Ari's. Ben's proxy was sick, so I'll pass it on. But Ben will be on SA, and Paige will be on Constitution. We have still looking for a graduate senator. I spoke with Brooke Long this week. She's hoping to have a candidate that she's talked to. We'll see. It's getting to be that time where we'll have a new Senate anyway. So. Just a reminder, March 14th, we have both Provost Couros will be here, and we have the safety walk afterwards. So bring warm clothes, bring questions. That's the week after spring break. And Transformation Center, you guys finally got an email from me, tomorrow at 4. And if you can't make that, let me know, and I can also schedule time. We really don't have a whole lot to talk about, because not a lot has happened, but we should still be here. So, Senator Spillman, you look confused probably because you weren't here when we assigned that. That would be the One Heart, the proposed transformation center on Kansas City Street. We just have a small ad hoc. If you'd like to join, show up at the Senate office at 4 tomorrow. Same goes for any new senators or proxies. I would like to thank Proxy Dolly, who's been here for like 6 weeks in a row for various senators. So basically a senator at this point. Yeah, do you guys have any questions for me? Things that sort of end of the year thoughts as we're getting close towards transition. Transition will be April 4th, will be the meeting. It will be up in the Christensen Hall of Fame. There will be food. You should dress up. The new senators will be there. The old senators will be there. You'll have transition, and then you may leave if you are not on the Senate. Senate or not.
When do petitions for senators?
I believe, I wish Megan were here, but the petitions for senator will be open Friday? No, okay. I'm pretty sure it's like the 15th. It's like the date of the elections for President Vice. And then they're due like in a week or two from that. And yeah, I don't know the timeline. Actually I do, she sent me it. Let me look. What?
Did she send you any posters?
I haven't seen any posters. Okay, so March 14th will be the presidential elections and petitions available for all class. Petitions for all class will be due in 1 week from that time. And elections will be the week after which would make transition the following week. You guys have any questions for me? Anything else? Senator Knut.
Will our president be participating in Pi Day this year?
I would not. I did a pie eating contest last year, and it was not worth it. It was great. It's a great event, and you guys should sign up. I've heard a bunch of senators have already signed up for that, and there's going to be a Senate meeting at that time. So I don't know really what your thought was when you all signed up for that.
It is at 4:30. I'll have you know.
Okay, so if you can eat your pie in 30 minutes, you can come to the Senate meeting. Senate or not. Every year.
Pudding pie, you can get whatever flavor you want, sugar-free, gluten-free, whatever you need. And there's a raffle, it's free this year.
And I lost miserably last year. So.
Oh yeah, SDS, I forgot.
It was, yeah. Don't eat like a full meal before you go. Just don't do it. Did you ask about pie? Oh, Ed did. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to committee reports. Constitution. We have a Constitution chair, Noah, right now.
Yes. So we met with the Association of Women Geoscientists and the Association of Environmental and Engineering Geologists. So we have some GOE stuff come through. They are going to be presenting on March 14th. And then I'm going to talk to Rockcar tomorrow, and they'll probably come in March sometime as well. And then we're working on the handbook. I'll present it in a few weeks. So.
Yeah, and that's something that we're kind of talking about, both with eBoard and Constitution is, that's 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's already
There's a lot of geological societies, and they're all different, but it's spreading that membership thin when you have a relatively small geological engineering and geologist program. So we're trying to figure out how to address that issue. But other questions for Constitution besides that? Great, thanks, Noah. GR, did she send a report with anyone? Okay, so quick update. Monday the 12th will be the presidential debate at 5? I believe it's at 5.
Yeah.
We spoke last night in eBoard. They have been coming up with questions on the structure and all that. We have at least 2 people running, I believe, possibly more than that. So that's exciting. It will be contested. We are also looking at having students who come to the forum be able to write questions, and then the moderator can read them, depending on whether they're appropriate, which is always fun. But yeah, so Monday the 12th will be that. I'll be sending out an email on Friday about that. Presidential elections are on the 14th, which would be that Wednesday. Standard, I haven't seen a whole lot of posters or campaigning or anything like that, but as soon as they're submitted, they will be free to do that. Yeah, that's pretty much it with the GR update. I read the dates for the all-class stuff. Any questions that I may be able to answer? Anything the committee members would like to add? Okay.
We're working on presidential debate questions, and you mentioned voting on 14th. That was the other thing I was going to mention.
Cool. We're done. Yeah, and make sure you try to get people to vote. We had a good turnout last year for voting. Let's try to increase that. Senator Close.
Are there any plans for a booth or anything like that?
I could not answer that. Are there any plans for a voting booth?
Yeah, we have the tables reserved in Lower Surbeck on the 14th from 10 to 2. I did that yesterday.
There you go. Other questions for GR? Okay, PR.
Okay, Kenneth, you're Senator of the Week. If you could talk to Soham after the meeting so we can get information, that'd be great. And then after spring break, we are starting to work on our band reveal with the concert committee. We're going to talk about that. And then GR, Megan mentioned you guys are working on giraffes and posters. Did any of you know anything about that?
No.
No?
I didn't know about that.
Is Megan sick? Do we know where
I don't
Megan
know
is?
where Megan is. I texted her.
She didn't? Okay, because she didn't say. What? Okay.
Okay, well,
Okay.
everybody
Hey, bring it in.
Wait, do you want to talk to me about that?
Yeah.
Anything for the group guys? Nope. I just knew you couldn't hear me. Okay, sorry, PR, continue.
At the report.
Okay, questions for PR? Yeah, we will have posters hopefully quickly for the debate. Okay, essay.
Alright. Senate update email with meme was sent out.
Yep, and I'll be sending that out tomorrow.
Question on the comment board is Ezra and I changed it regarding survey expansion, utilities funding to raise GAF by $1. And we didn't really put a tally, we just sent comments. And we put a lot of information there, what GAF funds, what it is right now, what it would fund, how much, pretty much saying that the expansion would be funded by externally by donors, but we would only be paying for utilities, so all that is there. So, in regards to that, the survey will still be sent out on the Monday after spring break, but the question will be different. And
what will the question be?
I just mentioned. This is regarding the gap.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, will you at least have some people like the wording prior to sending out?
Finance committee will oversee this.
I will also check in.
You don't need to. We got this.
Other questions for us? No, I trust you guys. Okay, thanks. Campus ad hoc committees, any meet? None? Okay, I'll take it. Upcoming Senate business, we have the safety walk on the 14th, so do not forget, bring warm clothes. We have the presidential debate on the 12th, as well as a presidential election on the 14th. Senator Dexter.
This is relatively announcement-y, upcoming-ish, but the Student Federation Executive Director turns over at the end of March on the 27th, and the meeting is at BHSU. So if you are interested in meeting the next Student Federation Executive Director, I am the current one, talk to me, go to the meeting, and it'll be fun.
You said the 27th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does anybody not know what the executive director position is? Well, talk to Paige because she is the current executive director. Okay, any other upcoming Senate business? Oh, Dean Mann. Oh, okay.
Gets us every time.
Whew. Glad. Any announcements?
Yeah. I forwarded out a couple of emails today. If you're juniors, look at that one research opportunity. And then the other one was the drug and alcohol survey. We really do appreciate student input on that. And if you encourage others to take that, we appreciate it. So thank you.
You have until the end of the week to sign up to participate in the pie eating contest and also enter the raffle to pie a professor. This is sponsored by the Society of Physics Students, so check us out, learn more so.
I would like to point out there's 2 people in this room that are potentially in the running for that contest. Senator Otten and Ed Knudsen. And, you know, if you want to see us eat some pie, you know, like these guys could demolish pie. Look at them. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Especially if it's a Christmas. You just get all of your beers you have left to eat.
Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Senator Knudsen.
Secret Santa. Oh, yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, okay, think about it. Senator Spillman.
I'd like to vote.
There's a motion to adjourn made by Senator Spillman, seconded by Senator Penning. All the discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned.
No more. Okay, sorry, I thought it was not 6 million or something. Just so that we're accurate, and then when you get ready to write the email.
That's all I got.
Make sure if there's any data points. No, but good work, good work. Okay.
We got it.
Oh, you're ready. It's like, yeah, we got ready. We're done now.
So
No, but you'll be like,
I ate I don't know, Jake. Jake. Is it streaming off?
no.
But
Okay,
Yeah.
It's way, way
Okay, yeah, no, I'll send that email.
And then how is everybody going?
Lord.
Has there been
Yes. I am flying in my head. I saw my entire life flash before me. I was mildly disappointed.
Yes. So my life flashed before me. I was mildly disappointed.
It wasn't bad, you know.